version that you sent.
Right.
If you can bring up that document and then describe to us what we're looking at, that would be helpful. Before you do that, in terms of the public seeing the photographs, we would suggest that it be seen from Council Jahate's laptop, because the resolution is much better than the printed copies of the photographs.
Right.
Just a second while we hand the pictures to the commissioners so that they can follow your explanation. So, Mr. Cisse, can you please describe to us, first of all, tell us the circumstances in which you took these photographs, and then describe what we're looking at in the first photograph that I've referred to now.
Yes. When this was unfolding, I had my mobile phone on, because I knew there was going to be trouble. I need to back myself up. I started taking photos of them, but when it was in process, I wasn't able to take the correct photos. So immediately after they left the headquarters, I ran and hid on the balcony on the second floor of the police headquarters, just above the main entrance, where they had their vehicles parked.
So to be clear, you took these photos on the same day, but after the second parade and after the activities of the witch hunters at the police station, is that correct?
Exactly.
So as they were leaving?
The only photo I took while the process was going on was when the officers were asked to line up to go and take their oath for allegiance to the president. That was when I took that photo, but I advised myself it was not safe, so I suspended everything and went to the balcony.
So we will come to that photograph, but just to start off, can you explain to us what we're looking at in the image? The first one that says witch doctor, the way you've titled it, describe.
The first one that is the leader of the witch doctors. He was the one who would run in the middle of people. After every few steps, he randomly stops and points his cowtail to someone and and point to him where to go and join the group, those that he identified.
So in this photograph, we can see that he is wearing red, just as you described, as well as a red hat.
Yes.
Do you recall what was on the hat? We've seen a few patches.
The hat has some tails. I don't know what tail it is. It might be a cow tail. and some cowrie cells, and some mirrors. It has some blue patches also on it as well.
You mentioned a mirror that was in the form of a plate. Is that the one that we're looking at
Yes.
in the photo? So the little, the center of it is where the mirror is. Were there any other mirrors around this plate, or was it just that mirror in the middle?
You see those on the side, those white things, the circumference of it, and the smaller circles on the plate. The white ones that are like the circle are cowrie cells. In their middle is where they saw a mirror in them. They are smaller mirrors, but the bigger mirror was in the middle. And the plate itself, the circumference, had cowrie cells around it.
What about the rest of the leader's outfit? From the waist down, we see different colors as well as different things that are hanging. What are those?
There are all sorts of things. Some are, I don't know what, goat or whatever skins, and different tails of different animals, some skins, etc.
And what about the individual that is standing next to the person who you said is the leader of the witch doctors?
That one is part of the team. I don't know what his specific role was, but he was always with the witch doctor, except when he was running, he would sometimes wait. When he stopped, he would join them. He would join him rather.
Were there any items hanging on his clothing?
He had some beads. We call them konongo. I don't know if you know some beads in the local language. We call it konongo.
And what about the hat that he was wearing?
He had the Kanilai farm hat on.
So apart from that photograph, I'd like you to pull up the next one, which is a photograph that says Witch Doctor 1. And it is the same photograph, a better resolution, I believe. But in that photograph as well, we're still looking at the two individuals, the leader and one of the other witch hunters that you mentioned. And there is a vehicle in front of them. Do you know where that vehicle is from?
That vehicle is a blue pickup, a Mitsubishi L200 State House vehicle. It was the vehicle that this witch doctor drives in.
So it's a State House vehicle. Is it green or is it blue?
Green rather.
It's green. And in that same photograph, there are individuals dressed in green. Are these the green boys that you were mentioning?
Yes. The officer you are seeing behind the two men is Sergeant Baji. I don't know if he's still in the police force. The one who has his back to the witch doctors. is Sergeant Baji. He used to drive Commissioner of Operations. And the Mercedes, sorry, the Pajero, that front you are seeing over there, belongs to the security, the military, that are their escort. That is what you are seeing over there at the front.
So essentially they were using state vehicles as well as obviously state officials to accompany them on these missions.
That is right.
I would like to move on to another photograph. There is one titled Witch Doctor Boarding Vehicle.
That is right.
So in this photograph, we see the man that you mentioned as the leader of the witch doctor, as well as the other individuals usually with him.
Yes.
Do you recall what was written at the back of that T-shirt?
It says something Guinea. It's written in French. I remember Guinea, but because there is a tail that covers part of the writing, I couldn't remember the full what was written, but it has something Guinea.
And when you say Guinea, what are you referring to?
Guinea-Conakry. It is written Guinee-Conakry. In the middle, the top one, SOW, and there is a tail. I couldn't know what it covered. And you also have AM and whatever was over there. And there is another writing on the bottom. That is MOM whatever, I couldn't remember fully well.
So what you were able to identify based on the writings were Guinea-Conakry written in French.
That is right.
Do you know where these witch doctors came from?
I later understood that they came from Guinea-Conakry.
And can you tell us how you found out about that specific information, where they came from?
I got this information on my research, an investigation I did on their matter.
And was this information that you received generally from people or a specific individual or a specific institution? Can you tell us what the source was of that information?
The source came from different people. With those who got close to them, I came to understand that President Jammeh brought them from Guinea following the death of his aunt and two of his close personal protection officers, Musa Jammeh, Tumbul Chamba, amongst others. And also, I had the IGP, Jesus Baji, specifically saying that the president brought them from Guinea. He was saying this while the witch doctors were preparing to start their game on us. He was talking to other officers. He was even explaining how they got one woman and after giving him their whatever concoction, the woman test to have caused the accident of a military truck that happened a few months earlier along the coastal road near Taf at Old Yundo. I heard the IG saying that the woman said he used his head to head the truck. That was crazy. I even recorded it when he said that. I took note of it as he said it.
So just to be clear, when was this statement made? Was it made during the 10 o'clock parade or was it made subsequently?
During the 10 o'clock parade. Just before they started.
Okay. I would like to look at just a second. I would like to look at a few more pictures and then we can talk about what happened at the parade itself.
Right.
Can you pull up the picture that says witch doctor number 2?
Okay. Yes.
Of course, you told us that there were 5 witch doctors, so the leader and 4 others. We've already looked at one of the other witch doctors. This would be a different person, is that correct?
Yes, yes.
And can you tell us, can you describe for us what this person was wearing?
This person was also wearing red, complete red, with black on his cap, and he had some cowrie cells, but not as many as the leader.
Do you recall if he played any particular role during the events at the police headquarters?
While the leader was among us, he would be walking around us, just like his colleagues.
Did he carry anything while he did that?
He carried a tail. I think it was also a cow tail, red one. The officer that you see, in white, holding a paper, was Inspector Yusuf Hussain. He was the one who informed me of the coming of these people. He was coming into the headquarters building at the time.
Just to clarify, is it Inspector Yusuf Hussain or Yusuf Hussain?
Yusuf Hussain, S-A-I-N-E.
You had mentioned that one of the State House officials, state guards who were accompanying the witch hunter leader and the other witch hunter was called Sergeant Baji. Do you know where Sergeant Baji is currently?
No, Sergeant Baji was not escorting the witch doctors. He only happened to be standing on the road when these people were passing. By default, my picture got him, just like Inspector said.
Thank you for that clarification. So he was not escorting. He is presently.
I've not been in the Gambia for the past seven years. And the last, when I left the police, I think he was the driver to the commissioner of police. I don't know if he's still there or he has resigned, or retired rather.
And what about Inspector Yusuf Hussain? Do you know where he is currently?
Yusuf Hussain was still with the IT unit. He was the head of the IT unit. I do not know if he's still in the police, but he's one of the officers who was asked to go to this place to be cleansed, and he had gone, but he informed me that he only went and walked around the place and returned.
So I would like to look at one more photograph, and then we can talk about what happened during the parade, and then we will come back to the photographs. Can you pull up the photograph that says Green Boys and Drums?
Okay, one moment. Yes.
Can you describe for us what we're looking at in that photograph?
Photo is the vehicle that their leader drives in. You have these green boys that accompany them, sitting at the back, having the drums that they beat while this thing was going on.
Can you tell us what is next to the drums at the back of the truck?
There are two drums over there.
Apart from the drums, is there?
I don't know which. There is this particular one. There is okay. Yes. There is a spade. This is the spade that they used to dig a hole at the headquarters where they buried their concussion and the blood from the animals that they slaughtered, where officers were asked to come and swear at the shrine. It was the same spade that was used to dig the hole where Kumbajata's jujus were buried at the headquarters. Yes, that is the spade.
Thank you very much for that explanation, Mr. Cisse. Let us move on to what actually occurred during the parade, the 10 o'clock parade. You told us that you were all assembled in the normal formation. You described to us what else was happening in the background, so the individuals who were present, the different groups. You also mentioned standing with the witch doctors. Can you tell us what happened once everyone assembled at the parade?
Once everybody assembled, IGP, Jesus Baji addressed the parade and said the following, that the president, Yahya Jammeh, sent those witch doctors to the force headquarters to screen officers of being witches. 2, whoever was found would go and drink a portion of their concussion and also to be washed by these witch doctors. If you are a witch, you are going to die. But if you are not, nothing was going to happen to you. He also said every individual was going to swear allegiance to the president at a shrine that they were going to build at the headquarters. These were the 3 directives that these people were supposed to carry out. First of all, identify witches, treat them if they give them their concussion. If they are witches, they were going to die, happen to them, and nothing will happen to them. But they will all be washed by these witch doctors. And 3, every officer was going to swear allegiance to the president. Yes.
Apart from these 3 directives that he issued, did he say anything else during the parade?
He said, whoever was identified must comply, otherwise the executive order is whoever fails to do so will be fired.
Apart from these 4 issues, did he say anything else during that second morning parade?
Except for when he was talking to one of the officers, I couldn't remember who, when he was mentioning about what happened with the old woman, with the traffic accident involving the military. So once he finished his address, he signaled these people to come in, and we were told to open the ranks. You know, in a three-rank formation, is usually an arm length between the ranks. So we were told to open up and form a circle sort of, so that these people can be able to run around us. Immediately he said that, then the drumming started. The green boys and girls started singing in Jola. I hear one of their songs naming President Jammeh and other things that I do not know the meaning of. Yes, as the beating of the drum intensified, these witch doctors started running, came into us. It was like, it was just funny. It was funny, Council. They started running up and down. They would run, take few steps, stop, backtrack, and go back again, identify one person randomly, and point to him at the corner to go and stand over there. As this goes on, I was standing with some officers. I could remember Mariama Gassama, who was one of the officers I was standing with. I told them to read whatever they know of the Quran, because this was Satan on full display. I was reciting Surah Al-Fatiha, Ayatul Kursi, and other verses of the Quran.
You told us that IGP made the statements that you recounted. The green boys and girls started to sing. You said in Jola. How do you know that what they were singing, the language they were singing, was Jola?
As a Gambian, I know the Jola language, and this song they were singing, I am familiar to it. I do not know the meaning, but it's a song that sometimes is sung in the radio. so I know the Jola language.
You mentioned that what you could understand was the references to President Yahya Jammeh. Is that right?
That is right.
You said you heard these songs on the radio previously. Have you heard these songs sang at any particular occasion?
Usually, on their put and puff, although I never go there, but it's reproduced on the radio and the television, so you will hear these songs from there.
You said that as the singing intensified, the witch hunters were, was it the witch hunters or was it the witch hunter leader who was going around the parade?
They all ran together from where they were standing near the tailoring shop. It was the leader who ran inside. The rest ran and round among us, taking positions and running in circles, while the leader was among us inside.
You told us earlier that the leader was the one who identified the individuals who were supposedly witches or to be screened further to determine if they were witches or not. Is that right?
That is right.
When these individuals were identified, you told us that they moved to another side.
That is right.
Apart from selecting people out of the parade and moving them to another side, do you know if that information was being noted down by someone?
It was after they finished listing the names, after finishing identifying people to go and stand at the corner, precisely behind the office of the Commissioner of Banjul Division. There are some flowers over there. These people were asked to go and stand behind the window of the office of the Commissioner of Banjul Division. So as this intensified, after about 20 to 30 people were identified, I was standing, reading my verses of the Quran. All of a sudden, as he passed me, he stopped. He turned back and looked at my direction and pointed to me and asked me, pointing me to go and join over the rest. I didn't know if he meant me, but because he was pointing to me, generally if 10 people are standing and you point, the person that you point to would know you are pointing to him. To be specific and to be so, I said to him, "Do you mean me?" He nodded, meaning yes. Okay. I went there and stood. Immediately I started getting angry, but I said to myself, my emotions will not come in this. So I comported myself and waited for things to take their natural course.
Up until that point in time, was someone taking a list, like noting down a list of names of individuals who had been pointed out from the parade?
No, no list was being taken yet. It was after he stopped, after about around 40 people were identified, it's when IG instructed Ken Mendy, who was the OC of registry, to come with a paper and take down the list of everybody who was identified. That was how our names were recorded.
The Commission heard from Mr. Ken Mendy yesterday, and according to his narration, he was asked to go into the IGP's office. This was prior to the selection at the parade, and his role was to write down the names of any individual who was pointed out as a potential witch. So you're saying that, as far as you recall, you did not see him doing that until after about 40 people had been selected. Are you saying that's when you recall the IGP giving him that order?
Yes, what happened is, I listened to Ken's account, but he must have sincerely forgotten the chronology of things. He was mixing the previous day to the next day and mixed them as the same when they were not. Whatever happened the previous day when he accompanied them to offices, I was not privy to that because I was not there. This other one was the next day from from the 10 o'clock parade, when he came and started writing the names. He had already written previous names before, because my office mates told me that Ken had already written their names, among others.
Well, according to Ken Mendy, he only referred to the witch doctors visiting on one occasion. But what you're saying is that from your own sources, meaning your colleague, what you understood was that he had taken down names the day before. Is that what you're saying?
That is right. It was not two, it was two occasions. The first, according to the IG and everybody else, they were there on Tuesday and returned on Wednesday when they gathered everybody at the parade ground. The first day, they only went into the offices. Yes.
So from what you're saying, the first day it was only going into the offices, but it was the second day where people were being pointed out at the parade. That's right. Your recollection of events.
That's exactly what happened. The only time they went into the office, the building, on that second day, is when they went into Kumba Jata's office, and when they went to the IG's office. Those were the only two times they went into the building.
What I'm trying to understand is, from what you said, you believe Ken Mendy is genuinely mistaken. But what I'm trying to understand is, perhaps you may be genuinely mistaken. Isn't that a possibility?
No. That is not the case.
Please tell us why.
Like I said, I was not there on Tuesday the 13th. When I came in the morning, my office mates, including Inspector Yusuf Hussain, Bintu Kote, Bojang, confirmed to me that these people came to the headquarters the previous day. Inspector Yaya Dabo of personnel confirmed to me that his name was written that day on Tuesday. Inspector Dabo was not identified on the parade ground. IG himself, RSM himself, both mentioned and confirmed that these people were at the headquarters the day before when I was not there.
When
so definitely, I was there on the 14th when they paraded everybody on the parade ground.
When did Yaya Dabo inform you that his name was taken down the day before?
The very day on Wednesday when my name was written. Because after they have left, Yaya was my personal friend. He informed me that they have written his name too. And the next day, on Thursday, when we were supposed to go to...
Maybe we should take it step by step. Let's take it step by step so that we deal with each day as we proceed. Perhaps I should put it differently. How soon after the events, because I'm still trying to understand how, like your basis of recollection, how soon after the events did you start taking or making a record of what happened on that day?
Immediately as things unfold, I have a habit of keeping a journal. Everything about my life, especially every major event, I have it recorded.
Do you still have a copy of this journal? Do you?
I spoke to Yaya Dabo. On my way upstairs, I talked to him at the personnel office.
So, one question is, do you still have a copy of the journal that you're referring to?
I do not have a copy of the journal because at the time when I started documenting this, I make sure I secure them. So the journal that I had, my diary, when I was leaving the country, I had to secure it. Yes.
And what do you mean by I had to secure it?
I disposed it off.
You told us that you started... Please continue.
I had them documented, the details documented, when I started writing the book.
Can you tell us when you started writing your book?
Okay, it happened in two folds. Initially, I recorded everything for my own reference and securing it in case anything happened. I had a young family, and I knew I was trekking into a terrain that could lead to anything. So when I do my writings, I secure them. I have a brother in the UK. I had a clandestine email, an email address that I will use to send these emails to my brother to save them for me, including those pictures that I took. I sent them to him immediately. I had other friends as well, confidants, that I write my stuff and I give it to them for safekeeping in case if I should be killed. I have an obligation to let my children know what happened to me.
So you were making note of what occurred immediately following the events. You said on the particular day you took photographs. And then in the immediate aftermath, you made records and you shared them with family. You talked about your brother. And subsequently, that's the information that you used for your book. Is that right?
That is right.
Can you tell us the name of your book and when it was issued?
The book, I titled it, Witch Doctors at the Police Headquarters, My Resistance and the Consequences. I still in a manuscript. I have not published it yet. But on the very day of this, on the 14th, after I took the pictures, I made a news article. I'm a writer, I love writing, and thank God I can write my stuff. I immediately disseminated to my brother for safekeeping, and also the news article, I allowed him to share it with the online newspapers, Gambian newspapers, but it was written as an observer, an eyewitness, for a random person who came to the police headquarters for some business and was there when these things were unfolding. That was how I wrote the news.
Thank you, Mr.
So nobody
Cisse.
can connect it to me.
Thank you for that information. This is very important because, of course, the commissioners will have to make a decision as to which facts to believe and which ones they won't believe. So the information about how you recorded the information and made a record of it is very important in order to assess how reliable the information that you're providing is vis-a-vis other witnesses. So so thank you for providing that. I would like to go back to...
I forgot to bring one thing, like I have a notebook that I have. I still remember one of my writings is up there in my drawer upstairs. I wouldn't want to take the commission's time, otherwise I'll just go upstairs to see if I will find it. It should be a minute, and then I will show you here, if that is okay with you.
No, that's fine. I think we should move on, and then we can deal with that matter later on. We'll continue with what happened on the 14th. You've told us about the activities of the witch hunters and how people. You told us about 40 people were identified, including yourself, and told to stand, about 40, and told to stand separately. Apart from you, can you give us the names of other individuals who were identified on that day while the parade was being conducted?
There were so many people. F.R.I. Jane was one of them. So many other cleaners, and some of the people who were initially identified, recorded in the offices, were also part of it.
As far as you could tell, how were they able to identify the individuals from the day before?
No, what happened the day before was independent of what is happening today.
Okay, so the 40 people that you've mentioned did not include the other individuals who were identified the day before, is that correct?
No, it includes some of them. Because your name could be written in the office, and while this thing is ongoing on the background, they name you again.
And who was naming these individuals while...
Identifying, it was the leader of the witch doctors.
Did the leader...
was the one who was pointing, and then after he finished, everybody was at the same place. Ken Mendy was asked to come and record our names down.
You said that some of the people who were identified the day before were still identified on that Wednesday.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to understand. How did that come about? Did someone mention their names as a result of a previous record that was taken? Or did the witch doctor, the leader of the witch doctor, identify them again, I guess, based on memory?
Okay, I do not know how he identified them again, but these people were among us like everybody else. For example, Yusuf Hussein, whose name was recorded in the office, and again during this at the parade ground, he was appointed again to go and stand among us. FRI also the same thing happened. I don't know if he knew FRI by face or not, but I know FRI said his name was written in this office and he was called to go and stand again.
During that incident at the parade grounds, did you hear the leader of the witch hunters or any of the witch hunters speaking at any point?
He speaks very briefly. He does not speak much words. He just says few words in fuller and then move on. Unless when he's being consulted, they do so at a very low tune that I could not hear, but they consult here and there.
The few words that he uttered in Fuller, did you actually hear them or were you told?
Yes, I hear them.
And did you understand Fuller or you to identify the language?
I don't fully understand, but I can communicate in it in a bit, just few words here and there, but I know when you say arga or something like that.
When they spoke in Fuller, did anyone interpret what was being said in any other language?
No. When they speak among themselves, they have their own way of communicating. And the IG, someone was interpreting for the IG, but one of the witch doctors was on the translation.
Do you recall who was interpreting for the IG?
It's one of the witch doctors.
During that incident and the activities that were taking place around the parade grounds, what role, if any, did Solo Bojang have?
Solo Bojang was technically coordinating everything. He was standing with the IG, and they will consult him here and there together with the IG. And when they move anywhere, for example, when they run into the building, they will follow them.
So, just to be clear, you're saying that the witch doctors consulted with the IGP and Solo Bojang while these activities were going on, is that right?
That is right.
You said apart from the individuals that were identified itself, you mentioned that at one point, the one time that they went back into the offices was when Kumbajata was brought to the parade ground.
That is right.
Can you tell us about that particular incident? What happened, and describe for us who went and what happened next?
Yes. What happened was, as they were identifying, they now said they slaughtered the animals. Kumba was in his office. He didn't come down for some reason. And then they called the people. The superior officers started first, taking their oath. I was standing over there, watching them. And then all of a sudden, he left. They all ran inside. For some reason, the IG solo followed them. They went into Banjul station. Everybody was there. About 5 minutes later or more, they came out with Kumba Jata. They held his hand like that. Kumba had a juju, which we call locally as Timpabulo. I don't know what it, it doesn't have a name in English. He was holding it in his hand like this. The witch doctor lead held his hand like that. And he was leading Kumba into the crowd of officers. When they came to the middle of the parade ground, right in front of the licensing office, he was ordered to drop it. One of the wig doctors had a black plastic bag, almost half full, with other jujus that Kumba had on. Everybody in the Gambia police force, or security generally, know Kumba Jata. Everybody knows he wears these jujus. But he was the most peaceful person you will ever see in this world. I never hear him charge anybody. He was the Deputy Commissioner, Banjul Division. He was hardworking, taking his time. They went into his office, virtually dragging him out, humiliating him in the presence of over 100 people. Took his jujus out. How they took them out, I don't know, because I was not inside. But one of them was holding them in a plastic bag, while their leader held his hand like that with the juju that you put in your pocket, virtually dragging him, leading him into the crowd. So when they arrived almost in front of the licensing office, they asked him to drop it. And the concoction, what it, or if it was a palm wine or whatever, I don't know, was poured on it by one of the wig doctors. Kumba was almost shaking, embarrassed, humiliated. It's like you do it to be somebody he would have just passed out over there, right there. Then, one of the green boys was ordered to dig a hole in the gardens of near the parade ground, and there his jujus were buried in there. But these things happen after they have slaughtered the goat and the cock and put their blood into that hole and buried a concussion, a bottle of concussion. It was like this, something like that. And they buried it almost to its neck. Have some blocks, cement blocks, and square around them. That was where officers came to take their oath.
If we can focus on the slaughtering, of the goat as well as the cock, can you first of all describe what kind of goat and cock it was? Well, they were, sorry.
This was a red goat. It was a very healthy goat that I've seen, as well as a cock, was also red. If I could remember well, was the one who was ordered to slaughter the goat, while the IG slaughtered the cock. That was what happened.
And this
I was standing watching them.
And this was in spite of the fact that FRI Jame, from what you've said, was one of the people who was identified as a potential witch, according to these
yes,
witch,
he
witch hunters.
He was called. He was called to come and slaughter the ram, the goat rather.
And do you recall where exactly these two animals were buried within the police headquarters?
The animals were taken away, but they were slaughtered. You see, if you come to the police headquarters, like you come to the parade ground, you face the licensing office. It's main door. You have to the right. You have the generator room. Between the generator room and the licensing and the building, the licensing building, you have a staircase that goes to the third floor. Next to the staircase is a small garden where we have flowers. The palm tree near that inside that garden. It was under this tree that they put these things in.
And just to clarify, you told us about the bottle of concoction that was put in the hole, as well as the blood of the animals. But just to clarify, were the animals actually buried as well, or?
No, they were taken away. And in fact, what I did was, when I went to the balcony, I took a picture of the goat itself when it was in the second vehicle, pickup truck used by these witch doctors. I sent the picture to you.
Can you pull it up on your end, and we'll also do the same? Are you looking at the photograph, Mr. Cisse?
Yes, I am.
And is that the goat that you were talking about?
This red goat was the one that they slaughtered.
It looks a little brownish from here. Is that the one you're referring to in the photograph, right?
Yes, I am. That is it.
And so when this...
It is a brown goat. We call it a red one because there is no pure red goat.
Indeed. So this was the goat that was slaughtered. And you said after that, the two animals were taken away and the bottle of concoction was buried. And then soldiers started going to swear allegiance at this, this place, essentially a shrine. Correct?
Yes, the police officers.
Can you tell us how that was done? Was it a particular group first and then another group? How was that organized?
Yes, the way they organized it, the IGP ordered the superior officers from the Deputy Inspector General coming to the SPOs, that is ASP, were first ordered to go and take their oath. As they have gone halfway, he ordered everybody else to fall in and join the queue according to their ranks. I was a sergeant. I didn't move. I was standing still. Virtually everybody left me, and they formed these two lines to go and take their oath. I was thinking to myself, what had befallen the Gambia. It was just so much that I was thinking, manifestation of such an adulation, I couldn't get it. I was lost in that thought when I had the IGP calling me and said, he said, join. I looked at him, I didn't move. So it was later, I went to the back of the line and took my phone out and took 2 of the officers as they were lined up and went and stood by the fence.
We also have that photograph. We have those photographs, but I will just put up one. If you can refer to one of the photographs with the police lining up. You told us that initially it was the IGP and senior officers who went to the shrine and swore an oath. And
Yes.
then you had the other ranks who also lined up and did the same thing.
That is right.
Do you recall, well, prior to that, were you told what kind of oath you should state before the queue started, or was it only something that occurred at the front of the line?
Whatever they said at the front of the line, I do not know. But what the IG said was that officers are going to swear allegiance, President. I didn't go closer to know actually what they were saying. But if you look at the pictures of the officers that were lining, if you look at officers line picture, line 2, you will see in front of the line are the inspectors. You have the sergeants and other ranks behind, so and other plainclothes. You see the officer in blue next to the line. The one to the left is Commissioner Famara Jallo. He didn't take part in it. He was just walking around. He was, as he passed these inspectors, that was when I took that picture. So that was how he got into that picture.
So before we pause for the break, I'll just use a few more minutes just to wrap this up. As far as you were aware, was it all the officers who swore allegiance at that point in time, who took the oath, or were there other officers who did not take part in this, as far as you could tell?
Not every officer was part of it. I know some officers who ran into their offices and not want to get involved. Among them was my friend, Tijan Baji, now late. May God forgive his. He was the OC prosecution at the time. He went and locked himself in his office. Also, Yamundao Jan was an ASP, female police officer. He was the OC of Gender and Child Protection. He also ran away, just not to be able, not to be used into that annihilation. My friend Sidi Sedikan was called by Yamundao to go inside. I was going to go with them, but then it would have meant I was running away. I was not going to run away. That was why I stayed.
You told us earlier that after this particular line was formed and officers and other ranks were swore an oath, as directed by the Inspector General of Police. You said it was after this that the witch doctors went into the building and then Kumbajata was pulled out. Is that right?
That is right.
So you told us what happened.
Went back to this swearing was ongoing.
As it was ongoing.
Yes, as it was ongoing.
So you told us what happened to Kumbajata. After that, what else happened at the police headquarters before the departure of the witch hunters and the rest of their entourage?
They went back to the IG's office again for some reason that I don't know. And when they came back, it's when they went to the drug squad office, and the rest of the officers never took their oath. At the drug squad, they didn't spend time because technically everybody had deserted the place. They wanted to go to the fire service. Chief Fire Officer Bakwarin ordered that nobody should enter there. So they were coming back. It's when I went to the balcony to take their photos.
So just to be clear, what they did at the police headquarters, from what you could see, they attempted to enter the fire service office to do presumably the same thing, but they weren't allowed to enter. Is that right?
That is right.
Apart from the police headquarters, do you know of any other government institution where they did something similar?
From the police headquarters on that same day, they went straight to the Gamtel, where there was a fire incident a few days before. And I got information that they went to other security installations like the fire, the army, NIA, and also this place, prison. I heard they went there, but I didn't confirm it.
So from what you said, they went to Gamtel on the same day that they came to the...
Immediately from the headquarters.
What about the Army NIA in prison? Even though you didn't confirm it, do you know if those incidents took place prior to what happened at the police station or subsequently?
I think the Army was before the police headquarters, but prisons was definitely after the police.
And what about the NIA?
NIA, I was not sure when actually they went there, but I had information that they went there too. My friend who used to work there informed me that they were there.
Apart from the fire service, where they refused to allow them in on that particular day, do you know of any other government institutions where they tried to enter but they were refused?
No, I didn't have that information. I know for fire service, Roger says they're not going to go inside there.
And Roger, who are you referring to?
Chief Fire Officer Roger Bakwarin.
So after this happened and they left, you told us that you took pictures of what was going on. What was the mood at the police station? How did you feel? How did other officers feel about what had just taken place?
The entire headquarters was in a very, very, very sad mood. Everybody was angry, afraid, and were in anxiety.
And how did you view what had taken place at the fire station, at the police headquarters? How did you view the events, and also was there any discussion with your superiors about what had happened?
Yes, subsequently, for myself on that very day, I was very angry, but at the same time, my main concern was what was going to befall the Gambia. There is no time that such manifestation of idolatry would be in a country and it is not followed by calamity. That was what my worry was. And I was praying for the Gambia, even though I was very angry and offended, but that was not important to me at the time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cisse. I will leave it at that until we resume after the lunch break. Thank you very much for your testimony so far. Mr. Chairman, I hand over to you for the lunch break, and we will continue after. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Council, and thank you very much, Mr. Cisse, for your very detailed testimony. We will take a 1 hour and 5 minutes lunch break and resume at 2:45 p.m. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Cisse? Hello? Mr. Cisse?